Hello, BookTube. Well, it happened again. Once again, I got busy with my day, and then I got busy with my evening, and developed a nice, pleasant feeling of work momentum. Uh, Constantly shunting attention to my little Fraulein to take her out and play with her and whatnot, uh, and totally ignored a mail shipment that came until now when it's deep dark in the middle of the night. So I'll I'll go through these now. It's a bunch of new books. We'll see what's interesting, and then I'll upload it in the morning. Because I have this idea in my head that when I upload a video, bells go off, and I don't want any bells going off at 3:30 at night. Probably that's not true. But anyway, let's see what we have here. I have to confess, this particular mail shipment is setting off my Steve Spidey sense in the extreme. So there could be some interesting stuff in here. Let's see what we have. Okay, all right, right out of the bat. Great. This is from Harvard University Press. This came out in early January. This is the finished copy of Age of Conquests. Big thick thing by Angelos Chaniotis. I hope it's translated. Are you translated? Have you a translated work? Doesn't look like it. Anyway, it's the Greek world from Alexander to Hadrian. Big, gigantic subject. That's the famous lighthouse at Pharos, one of the wonders of the ancient world, on the cover. And this is just a big narrative history of fascinating subjects. So I read a chunk of this when I got the advance copy, and then I sent it off before finishing it. So I will. It'll be a wonderful chance to finish it. Where am I going to put all these things? Let's see here. Let's see what this next one is. Nice meaty history, classical history to start us off. That's very nice. Let's see what this next one is. Also from Harvard University Press. Oh, also the finished copy of something we saw on this channel, I think. This comes out in February. This is Jesus in Asia. Look at that cover. Isn't that great? This is... reconstructions of Jesus occurred in Asia long before the Western search for the historical Jesus began in earnest. Think about that for a minute. That is fascinating. This enterprise sprang up in 7th century China and 17th century India, encouraged by the patronage and openness of the Chinese and Indian imperial courts. While the Western quest was largely a Protestant preoccupation, in Asia the search was marked by its diversity. Participants included Hindus, Jains, Muslims, Catholics, and members of the Church of the East. Okay, Jesus in Asia. Fantastic. All right, we're 2 for 2. Let's see what's here. Okay. This is another copy of Jesus in Asia. So I have, as you can see, an extra copy. If one of you is interested in the subject of Jesus in Asia, and might want to try your hand at reviewing the book, I would love to encourage you to do that. Let's see here. What is... Because Open Letters Review, the new version, the new online home of Open Letters, is always looking for reviewers. We have me, we have our editors, always looking for more people. Okay, this is... Looks like this is young adult. It comes out in late February. It's a finished copy of Dreadful Young Ladies and Other Stories by Kelly Barnhill, who lives in Minnesota with her husband and 3 children. She authored 4 novels, most recently The Girl Who Drank the Moon, winner of the 2017 John Newbery Medal. Oh, then she's a Newbery Award winner. How nice. She's also the winner of the World Fantasy Award and has been a finalist for the Minnesota Book Award, a Nebula Award, and a Penn USA Literary Prize. Wow. Very impressive. Okay, so what is this? When Mrs. Sorensen's husband died, she rekindles a long-dormant love with an unsuitable mate in Mrs. Sorensen and the Sasquatch. Oh my God, I'm sold. In Open the Door and the Light Pours Through, a young man wrestles with grief and his sexuality in an exchange of letters with his faraway beloved. Dreadful Young Ladies demonstrates the strength and power, known and unknown, of the imagination. In notes on the untimely death of Veronia Drake, a witch is haunted by the deadly repercussions of a spell. These don't sound like YA stories at all. With bold, reality-bending invention underscored by richly illuminated themes of love and death, and jealousy and hope, The Stories of Dreadful Young Lady shows us why its author has been hailed as a fantasist on the order of Neil Gaiman. Okay. All right. Well, now I'm a little confused here. I'm just going to treat this as an adult book. I'm going to read it anyway. I mean, I'd read these things anyway. But those sound fascinating. All right, let's move on. We're doing fine here. This is very nice. Oh, fantastic. All right, it's Harvard again. It's another finished copy. This comes out, I think, in February. Yes, in February. This is The Republic of Arabic Letters, with the subtitle Islam and the European Enlightenment. I would very much like to review this book in Abu Dhabi. We shall see. In the 17th and 18th century, a pioneering community of Christian scholars laid the groundwork for the modern Western understanding of Islamic civilization. These men produced the first accurate translation of the Quran into English language, mapped the branches of the Islamic arts and sciences, and wrote Muslim history using Arabic sources. The Republic of Arabic Letters reconstructs this process, revealing the influence of Catholic and Protestant intellectuals on the secular Enlightenment. Okay, we saw this before on this channel. It sounds fascinating, and I haven't got to it yet. I don't know if there's time for me to review this for an actual Arabic audience, but I will gladly review it. Otherwise, if there's not, I will gladly write about it for the aforementioned Open Letters review. All right, so Harvard is doing all right by me today. That's very nice. Serious scholarship in the mail. That's very nice. Let's see here. Let's see what this next one is. Oh, I forgot to mention this late night mail haul ends not only in a box, but in an enormous box. So God knows what's in it. Either multiple books or an enormous finished copy. Let's see here. One of these padded envelopes that are so satisfyingly difficult to open. Because I mail these padded envelopes all over the world, and it's nice to know that it takes effort to open them. Oh, okay. This is from Pegasus Books. Wow. Okay, this is Jonathan Shaw, Rising Star, Setting Sun. You Americans, at least, will probably recognize one of those faces. Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and the presidential transition that shaped America. Yes. Wow. After winning the presidency by a razor-thin victory on November 8, 1960, over Richard Nixon, Dwight Eisenhower's former vice president, John F. Kennedy became the 35th president of the United States. But beneath the stately veneers of both Ike and JFK, there was a complex and consequential rivalry. That's putting it mildly. In Rising Star, Setting Sun, Jonathan Shaw focuses on the intense 10-week transition between JFK's electoral victory and his inauguration on January 20th, 1961. In just over 2 months, America would transition into a new age, and that was very much in the air. Ike Eisenhower very much belonged to your father's generation. At least that was the feeling. And nowhere was it more marked than in the generational and personal differences between these two men and their dueling visions for the country they led. The former general espoused frugality, prudence, and stewardship. The young political wunderkind embodied dramatic themes and sweeping social gestures. I love it. I love it. There's so much to be written on this subject. In fact, this book is, if anything, way too short. Oh, boy. Okay, I love it. Oh, okay, I was just going to ask who Jonathan Shaw is. He's the author of 4 previous books. And he's covered Congress for Market News International for 25 years. Okay, so he's a veteran. But one of his earlier books, oh my, this is a trifle awkward. One of his earlier books was called JFK and the Senate, A Pathway to the Presidency. And if memory serves, I gave it a fairly rough handling. Well, I will look around online and see if I can find that review, because I think I found flaws with it. But even so, this is great. Okay, so Eisenhower to Kennedy, which was a truly pivotal translation. That's not just publisher hyperbole. And then we move on to this thing. This is the box, and it is huge and heavy. gonna assume that it's multiple books because, as I often say on this channel, I'd like to think that I am well enough versed in what's coming so that a book this size, a single book this size, could not possibly have got by me. So let's see what we have here. Let's see what we have. All this packaging out of the way. I have a... Okay, it's multiple books. I can tell that already. Let's see. Oh, fantastic! This is also from Harvard University Press. Harvard does the Loeb Classical Library series, which has the classics of ancient Greece and Rome, with the Greek and Latin on one side and the English on the other, as sort of a bilingual book. And they have expanded that out. They do the Dumbarton books where they do the medieval literature. Original material on one side, English translation on the other. And they also do the Murty Classical Library of Classical India, of Indian literature. And in a lot of cases, and maybe not so much the Loeb anymore, but in a lot of these other cases, this is the very first time a lot of these things are appearing. Same thing with the Itati Library. A lot of times, this is the very first English language translation to appear ever of these works. And this looks like a box of Indian classics, which is just fantastic. What do we have here? Oh my God, 5 books. With 5 books. This is what they look like. I believe I've written on a couple of these before. So this is The Life of Padma, Volume 1. Then we've got Risalo by Shah Abdul Latif. There you go. Just very, very simple, very, very stately. Then The History of Akbar, Volume 4. I've read all of the ones that came before this. Kind of a shelf of them. Because, and then what do we got here? And then The Epic of the Ram by Tulsidas, Volumes 3 and 4. So a massive amount of classical Indian literature. What are the dates on these things? That's what I want to know. Incredible. Just incredible. This is their whole... okay, these all came out in January. These are all brand new. Wow. Oh, I love it. Okay, the thing, of course, that I love most about these things is the thing that you might think I would love the least, which is that I'm on totally new ground. Unlike, I mean, you give me medieval literature, you give me the Italian Renaissance, I ask you. Most of the books that are getting their very first English translations for the Itati Library are books that I have read before. I've just read them, in the Latin or even in the Italian. And the Loebs, there are no works from the classical world that I have not read. So I'm on very firm ground. I've not only read them, but I've read them in many different English translations usually, and I've read lots of commentary about them. But these things, these books, I don't know them at all. I'm on completely level ground with someone picking them up for the first time, and that's thrilling. That's the chance to learn all about them is just thrilling. Unfortunately, they're going to make the logistics of a Steve pyramid somewhat daunting, but I'm willing to give it a try if you are. So we have, this is a fantastic mail haul. Great, meaty stuff. It's going to be wonderful to dig into it. So we have the Arabic Republic of Letters. We have, let's see here, how are we going to do this? Rising Star, Setting Sun, Eisenhower to JFK. We have 2 copies of Jesus in Asia. Then Age of Conquest, about the ancient Greek world. Then Dreadful Young Ladies and Other Stories, the stories sounded wonderful. Then a stack of Indian classics. It's just amazing. That is so wonderful. And I haven't read any of these Indian classics, of course, but I have read lots of other things in this Harvard set, and I cannot recommend them strongly enough. The scholarship's amazing. A lot of times the introductions are amazing. So if you are interested if you've read, for instance, contemporary great Indian novelists the last 25, 30 years, if you read some of those books and you think, this is incredible, this has to come, not only from an English translation, from an English tradition, but this has to be grounded in a vast native tradition of literature. If you've ever been in a position where you've read a book and thought that, I have many times, and you think, I don't really know much about the literature of India, especially the classical literature of India. This series is the cure for that. Right there, just simple as could be. I don't know if they're at your libraries. I don't really know outside of New England how distributed these things are. I imagine they have. Harvard has a fairly deep endowment, so they probably have a fairly large reach. Your libraries might have these. But anyway, I'm gonna go and glom all over these things. But I will be back, and I will post this when the sun breaks. Thank you, BookTube.